and we'll get your slides, but we'll make sure he gets those from you guys.
We'll make sure we get those to you. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much. All right, next up is Granite School District. I know they didn't think we were going to get to them, but we got to them. And then after, we will jump to briefly USBE, and then we will have public comment. There are, I believe the last they had checked, there were 11 individuals. Okay, so great. If you have flyers, go ahead and have those right here.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Rich Nye, Superintendent of the Granite School District. With me, I have Nicole McDermott. She's our Board President, and Chief of Staff, Ben Horsley. We appreciate the opportunity to talk through sensitive materials and the implementation of it in the Granite School District. I just want to make it clear that we in the Granite School District feel that our role is to partner with parents to raise children. They trust us with their children. That is something that we never take lightly, and certainly something that we give extreme and dedication and importance to. It's with that understanding as we partner with parents that when a parent sends their child to us to school to spend the day with us, that they return home better than when they even left school, that they were at school, they learned something, they were well fed, they played and had fun with friends, whatever it may be, but that is our obligation, that's our responsibility. Now, when we're meeting the needs of parents, some with disparate views on raising children, we do so operating within the guardrails of the law. And so whether a bill is passed, a state board rule is passed, or board policy is enacted, we immediately begin and work to the success of those decisions. And so what you have before you here is one of those, for instances, when it comes to sensitive materials. We provided this handout to you, but in the spirit of true transparency, are we projecting currently?
Do we have the slides, or do they? Are we good now? Okay, there you go.
Okay, so these aren't slides. We just wanted to show you what is available currently on our website that's available to all of the public. And so part of that, Ben, if you wouldn't mind going to the library book selection analysis. So much of the sensitive materials discussion is centered around our libraries, our media centers. But what we will focus on here, while looks like library, and that is certainly a part of the process, it also applies to curriculum, it applies to novels, adoption, it applies to ancillary materials, and that is also captured in policy. But Ben, would you mind going to the flow chart? And so this handout, and we can make all this available to you electronically as well. This handout captures what we feel is the process, similar to the Washington School District, of when a book is challenged. Now, we receive challenges. We have a formal challenge process. They usually come to the schools. Sometimes we get a district-wide challenge process. But what you see there on the left, on the library book, let's start with the library book deselection analysis. What you see on the left is the 76, 10, 12, 27 is what we've been referring to as the bright line rule. Furthermore, if you move to the right, if any of the challenges meet that requirement or that description, we also take into consider what is in state statute, 7610, 1201, and 1203, further definitions of that bright line rule. And when it meets those definitions, then the book is deselected. It's removed from our libraries. When we've had a book that has been challenged under that definition and through this flowchart, if you think anything that meets the 1227 of the bright line rule, if you look at the 1201, are the sexual descriptions or depictions in the book patently offensive to prevailing standards in the community? Well, yes. Then taking the book of the whole, does the average person with contemporary community standards find that it appeals to the prurient interest in sex and minors? Well, yes, then we remove that book. Now, as we follow that process, and you can take a look at the flow chart as it moves through, we also began asking the question, as would be natural, is how did these books ended up on our shelves anyway? And so if you flip the page over, we also apply the same standard to selecting books in our district for use, whether or not in the library or ancillary materials or curriculum in general. And so as we have incorporated this in full transparency, Ben. If you wouldn't mind just going to our homepage.
So this is actually, if you go to our homepage at graniteschools.org, up here at the top, there's this Parent and Family Resource Guide, which is a tab on every page within Granite School District. You go to there and actually go under curriculum and materials. All these items that are available electronically right now to the public. I just got a records request from a media outlet for our current list of deselection. I denied it and said it's already on our website. So this clicks to our process, as he's indicated, the flow chart, how to make a request, and then this master list of current submitted materials. There's some other tabs here. Books currently under initial review, completed deselection request, and then appeals that are currently in process as well. So I've left it on this, all submitted challenges since 374 was passed.
So as we consider that, if when a complaint is made and the complaint surrounds a 1227 or the bright line, that immediate complaint is reviewed by our legal counsel, chief of staff, assistant superintendent, and director of media, library, and educational technology for those determinations. When that is made, those determinations, then we continue with what would be, if it's not that, a parent review process, as has been similarly described, as well as an appeal process as well. I would like also to note anytime a book is, or curriculum material that is in circulation is submitted as a concern, it is pulled from the shelves while under review. So as of today, we've had 94 book concerns or book requests for review, and we've been able to work through that process. On this, you would see, as Ben has mentioned, the book title, the author, the schools in which that book resides, the level, junior high or high school, elementary, so forth, type of request, data request, and the state of that request, communicating back to those that have made the concern or filed the complaint. Generally, if it's not a 1227, and it is submitted as a specific school, then that specific school's community will review the book for determination for that local effort. That does not preclude a general district, because each of the districts, ours has no exception. We have an electronic library that's district-wide, and so we take a look at that as well. When it comes to the notion of what's currently on our library shelves, why wait for an appeal? We've also instructed our library assistants, our librarians, to also review what is on our library shelves. And as you can imagine, our libraries have a lot of titles, and it takes a lot of time. But we have also opened up to essentially any patron in the Granite School District, employee, parent, and so forth, who would like to make a request for a review or an appeal, that they have the opportunity to do so as well.
In fact, actually, just after 374 passed, or just prior, I was speaking to Representative Moss over here. I don't know if she recalls, but she shared some material with me that was disconcerting, and I'm the one who made a deselection or reconsideration request. And so we've been very liberal on that front. If there's something inappropriate that's potentially has damaging effect to children, as pornography does, we want to get that information from anybody we potentially can.
Thank you. Does that conclude your presentation?
It does.
Can I just have to say thank you. I think you're the first district that has talked about the library book selection process and being proactive in applying this there, because if not, you're going to constantly just have a flood coming, right? So I appreciate that. You said that you've had 98 challenges. Did I remember that right?
94.
94. And how many have been deselected?
We've got actually some of those were appealed further in our process.
So they're still in the process.
So we actually have currently right now, we had 23 books initially removed. 26 were restricted out of those initial. So they were restricted to an older age group. And then 27 of those were retained, and then 43 of those were further appealed and are currently under appeal right now.
Okay, thank you for having that information for us. And again, thank you for this. This is actually really helpful, especially when we're looking at a committee bill and possibility of the idea of how library books are selected in the first place. To the committee for further questions, we have Representative Carol Moss.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've been told that all those bills requests have been from 3 people.
When you say bills, do you mean books?
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
You just told
Books
me.
though, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
books.
okay.
All those requests for removal have been from
From
three individuals.
6.
6 individuals.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. And then another question that was, well, actually an idea that was, a point that was brought to me by Julie Jackson, my school board member, was that initially they would take books off the shelf when they were reviewing them until they made a decision. But she said it's taking so long now, you don't have enough people that are reviewing it. You don't have enough parents. Many parents are reluctant to do this because they're afraid if they say they think the book's okay, they're going to be harassed by other parents. So this is problematic. So she's concerned that because this process is taking much longer, that a lot of these books should be available in the meantime if they're library books. And then I have just one more.
I think Julie's back here, so she can wave and say hello. We share that concern with respect to our parent committee. The district level appeal process has been in force and was trained in January, and we've only had 2 determinations since that time on that appeal process. So what we have done is gone out and solicited. Our parent committee is made up of representatives designated by our board members to make sure that it's a representative of each of those respective precincts and our diverse communities that we serve in the 330 square miles that Granite School District serves. And so we have asked those board members to provide additional parents to be a part of that committee. The reason we've altered our process, we considered doing a lottery, we considered doing some of these other things, but frankly, we want parents who are going to come and represent their respective community within their individual precincts, and so we've asked our board members to nominate those parents to serve on those committees.
And I appreciate that because board members do not have time to read all the books that are challenged. One more question. When I was teaching, those many years I taught, every book that I taught or was on an outside reading list had to come from an approved list at Granite District. And if we wanted to add something, which we did over the years, more diversity in literature, more modern literature, there was a committee that reviewed it. And so I never taught anything. I mean, even though a few parents might have said, I don't want my kid to read this book, I never taught or assigned anything that wasn't, quote, approved. Is that still in existence? And I want to just say it worked really well, in my opinion.
It does. We still have that graphic novel review committee and process, and for them, as the laws are changing or newly implemented, these same rules apply to that. And so we do have an approved list of novels. If that's made an initial determination, if there is a novel on that list that someone has a concern with, it can be appealed as well. And same rules apply.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, seeing one question from the committee, Representative Lisenby.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And we can talk after. I just wanted to ask you this on the record, and I know we're trying to get to public comment, and we have a semi-soft stop at 11:30.
We're blowing past
We
it,
can.
but yeah.
We're going to blow past 11:30. That's awesome. I love it. We are a dedicated committee. On your flow chart here, which great work. Thank you. I agree for the most part. I have a question on, you get to your 1227 little I, 2 little I, 3 little I, and then you go to are the sexual descriptions or depictions, blah, blah, blah. That first one, and then after that, if that's a yes, why do we go to taken as a whole?
So that is per 7610-1203 in state code, where it essentially asks the question, with contemporary community standards, find that the book appeals to the appearing interest of sex in minors specifically.
Sure. And I can appreciate that, but as I said, we are going to clarify that, and it is unclear. I think I get the interpretation, but I think it's unclear and needs to be clarified. But I think if something fits the bright line definition of pornography in our schools, at that point it should be removed from the shelves so that we're not distributing pornography to minors. But that's just
Sure.
That's something we will clarify in our committee bill, and happy to discuss with you after.
Can I speak to that just very briefly as well? I don't know if Representative Pulsifer remembers, but previous to 374, her and I had this conversation on 1201 and 1203, and whether, because that is part of the criminal statute, there's a challenge there on how that applies with respect. So, and then 374 came out. We had a great working relationship with Representative Ivory and on that bill and testified in favor of it. With respect to that, I do want to clarify that we've not, when something has a 12, we call it a 1227 committee, not a bright line. So just when we have a 1227 violation, rarely does it not also exceed that standard in 1201 or 1203. And we've not seen something be retained as a result of those other two gray boxes. I wanted to be very clear about that.
Well, and Madam Chair, if I could just follow up, I appreciate the ongoing conversations we'll have as we work to clarify that with you. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, seeing no further questions, we appreciate you taking the time to come up here today, and we'll make sure that we have your flyer at the very least so that we can have that as committee materials. Great.